Hi again. In Dwight Wilson's Armageddon Now, the Premillenarian Response to Russia and Israel since 1917, Wilson, in the last segment on page 80 and 81, was dealing with the speculation in the 20s about Gog and Ashkenaz and Gomer. Now, in this section, he's dealing with the same period and the speculation about the rise of the League of Nations and its significance in Bible prophecy. Also the rise of Benito Mussolini in Italy. Who is the Antichrist? If Gog is Russia, as was generally understood by evangelicals, who is the Antichrist? Wilson says on page 81, in the rush to Armageddon, a question arose in the 20s concerning who would fulfill the role of the Antichrist, the opponent of Russia. The contenders for the part in this era were the League of Nations and Mussolini. It must be kept in mind that the term Antichrist is used very loosely and broadly. John, the only writer to use this term, that is in the New Testament, had said, as ye have heard that the Antichrist shall come, even now there are many Antichrists. That's 1 John verse 18 of chapter 2. Hence, the premillenarians could speak of communism or liberalism as embodying the spirit of Antichrist, which was already at work in the world, while at the same time they expected a personal Antichrist who would somehow coincide with the other apocalyptic symbols, particularly in the books of Daniel and Revelation. The formation of the League of Nations produced immediate speculation. The following appeared in the Prophetic News and the Evangel magazine and was reprinted in a collection which went through at least 5 editions. Quote, the World War, that is the Great War, the First World War, thus originated by demon teachings, has produced the result predicted in Revelation 16:14. It has gathered together all the kings of the earth and of the whole world. It has gathered them into a League of Nations, which will become the preparation of the nations for Armageddon. The gathering or leaguing of the nations together is the signal that the end is in sight. The peace conference at Paris had unconsciously set the stage for Antichrist and Armageddon. End of quote. Another famous magazine of the day, The King's Business, devoted an entire article to the League in which it was depicted as the continuation of the Roman Empire that is supposedly symbolized in the image of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, Daniel chapter 2. The feet of the image are composed of iron and clay. Quote, the toes of the feet indicate the federation of 10 kingdoms or of nations which now occupy the territory which composed the ancient Roman Empire. The League of Nations is composed of iron and clay, unquote. This symbol was in turn tied in with the beast of the apocalypse. Quote, the man who will finally dominate the World League of Nations will be the political beast described in Daniel and in the book of Revelation. He is the Antichrist. End of quote. This revived Roman Empire was specifically elaborated upon in an article in the Evangel, which detailed how the European countries were shuffling territories which had, or had not, been part of the ancient empire. England had lost Ireland, which had not been part of the empire. Germany had lost Alsace-Lorraine and was losing the Ruhr, which had been part of the empire. Austria and Hungary had lost the territory south of the Danube, which had been, and of course, God was behind all. There was even a reason given for the rapid withdrawal of American troops after the war. Quote, they have no right there, according to prophecy, as America was never part of the Roman Empire. End of quote. The dynamic rise of the flamboyant Mussolini, however, soon focused premillenarian interest upon Rome itself as the center of the revived empire. Christabel Pankhurst listed the, quote, reappearance on the map of the lines of ancient Rome, unquote, as one of the signs of the end of the age. She assessed the significance of this development. Here's another quote. Current international events are assuredly fingerposts to Armageddon, the last great conflict before Jesus, the Prince of Peace, banishes war from the earth. End of quote. By 1925, the Evangel magazine was enthusiastic. Another quote, Bible students have long watched for the first signs of the revival of the old Roman Empire. End of quote. Mussolini was referred to as the strongest character in world politics today, and the restoration of the empire meant the climax is near. One writer even conceived of the converging of both contenders for the role of Antichrist. Here's a direct quote again. Why, therefore, should it be thought incredible that a revived Roman Empire may be in process of formation as another link in the wonderful chain of events of the last days? May it not be that Mussolini's dream will affect the future of the present League of Nations? Who can tell? The one thing that would give power to the League would be the presence of a strong personality who would force himself by circumstances to its leadership. Or a new Roman combine of nations may draw to itself those destined to form part of that confederacy, which will for a time dominate Europe and wield the despotic power of the Antichrist. End of quote. This combination was not ruled out in an article that appeared somewhat later in the King's Business. Christ and Antichrist was the name of that article. Both the League of Nations and the revival of Rome were depicted as part of the plan of Antichrist. Oswald J. Smith, the influential pastor of People's Church in Toronto, expected the appearance of the Antichrist within a couple of years. Writing in the Evangel in 1926, he told of a prophecy made by a Rabbi Michael in 1868, which had predicted a great war in about 1913, close enough for World War I. The rabbi had also predicted the emancipation of the Russian Jews, which Smith saw in the overthrow of the Tsar. But the most significant prophecy was the complete redemption of Israel by 1928, which coincided with the speculation of other prophetic students. Smith himself drew no specific conclusion, but the implication was clear. Only 2 years were left. In 1927, the Evangel readers were informed that Mussolini had announced the revival of the Roman Empire. Quote, thus the dream of the revival of the ancient Roman Empire is a dream no longer. But only 9 months later, at least one Evangel writer did not share this confidence. In an article entitled Mussolini, Is the World Preparing for Antichrist?, the conclusion was drawn that Mussolini was probably not the Antichrist, even though he was certainly preparing the way for Antichrist. Such speculation continued to be popular even through the next decade. I'll put in a link to a series of 6 videos we did in our Babylon playlist. These 6 videos, though, are based upon the Book of Revelation's information. I'll put the first up, and the first is the theme of the first one is Babylon the Great false religion? And also I'll put the Babylon playlist, which is much larger than those 6 videos, up on your screen. See you soon.